Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 263, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And we have another wonderful, great, and powerful show. Kind of like Oz. Is it like Oz?
I actually was thinking that when you said great and powerful, because that's a very distinctive set of adjectives.
Is the Wizard of Oz, is his name Oz, or is it just like the area, the land of Oz?
That's a good question, because it is the land of Oz, but when he introduces himself in the movie, he says, "I am Oz."
So is he saying he is the world, like I am the world incarnate into one person?
Maybe he is, but at least as far as the books are concerned, I mean, after all this, he's a charlatan. But what's interesting is that the true ruler of Oz is named Ozma. So, like,
Yeah, like, who's he trying to fool?
Well, I mean, Ozma was not around in the first book for a very good reason.
What, was she captured or something?
Well, she was a he with a different name, and then eventually learned that he was, in fact, Ozma, the female ruler of Oz. And I forget how that revelation comes by, but it's like, well, there's a twist.
Wow. Huh.
This is in book 2, I want to say.
I need to read those. I never read the original books.
Honestly, because there are fucking 14 of them, you could probably stop at 6 because it feels like the originally intended stopping point, and the books after that were like response to fan demand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is not the Great and Powerful Oz show. We'll have to do that at some other time when I'm better researched. But we did want to talk a bit about remakes, the good, the bad, the kind of, and any time they've brought back something bigger and better, or maybe tried to, and
for the record, by the way, I have not seen the James Franco movie Oz the Great and Powerful, so no comment.
Yeah, and that's a Sam Raimi movie. I kind of want to watch that. But anyway, I've always wanted to watch Return to Oz. I never saw that for Rizzo.
That movie's fucked up.
Yeah, I want to see that.
That movie's actually pretty fantastic, and it's a combination of books 2 and 3.
That one's on Disney Plus, I think.
Yeah, incredibly, that is a Disney movie. You would never guess by watching it.
It's just one of those 80s movies that has like dark elements in it, like kids movies, like Never Ending Stories. That the Artax dying there.
Well, that was miserable, but like a bunch of 80s kids movies also just had that one scene that would just terrify you. Return to Oz had 2 for sure, and debatably 3.
Yeah, Secret of NIMH had that as well.
Yeah, Secret of NIMH had a few, Probably the Owl is the most outstanding one. That never bothered me in particular. I just thought it looked cool, but like stuff with Jenner got like the sword fight where he gets a dagger in the back. That's like, oof, Jesus.
But yeah, we're not talking about Don Bluth movies either.
Not too bad. That movie's great.
We really should do a deep dive into Don Bluth. That would be a good time, I think. I still need to see some of the classics. I never saw All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think you would need to carry that conversation because I've seen The Secret of NIMH and
you've seen An American Tail. There's no way.
You're right. I've seen both American Tail movies, and when I was really little, so I remember next to nothing. I saw the first Land Before Time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the original Land Before Time is a fucking classic. Dragon's Lair. You've seen Dragon's Lair?
Technically, I have. All right.
Have you seen Titan AE?
No.
Oh, you need to see Titan AE. That's
whatever.
That's really good. But yeah, we'll need to go back to that eventually. But yeah, this is the show about remakes and reboots. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a little loosey-goosey. But what I was gonna say is,
Square
Enix has had pretty poor track record
Final
with
Fantasy
its 2D games, and releasing them properly. All of the Final Fantasy games, really, the only one that they ever really did super justice to was 4. 4 was like the PSP game. the PSP remake that they made was exactly what you would want in a like a newer presentation. You could choose like new, like updated orchestral music or the old music. It was the same game but widescreen and higher resolution with nice pixelated graphics and the whole bit. And all of the additional content, if you wanted it, was there. Like the after years and all that stuff was there if you wanted
the recent Dragon Quest stuff.
But Square Enix is notoriously bad and have been since that era. For whatever reason, they are incapable of giving. Yeah, they didn't do well with that either. With at least the first 3 games, they released them on Switch, but they look like shitty mobile ports, which is exactly what they are. But what I was going to say is they've been very good to their 3D counterparts. Like the remakes that they have come out with, or even re-releases of their 3D titles, they kind of just keep getting better. So, for instance, I wanted to mention the fact that I got on sale Final Fantasy 12 for the Switch, and that's basically the best version of 12 that you're ever going to play. Like, it has like all of the updated stuff and looks gorgeous. It was always a good-looking game, especially for a PS2 game. It looked like beyond a PS2 game.
It also has, hands down, the best SID in the entire
It was
series.
one of those few games I think you could play in 1080i, if I'm remembering. But, it looks really good on the Switch. I really never got a chance to play 12, and now that, we have all the international content and, like, all of the updated, like, license systems and all that stuff, I really just wanted to go forth and play it and finally get to it. They've also been really good to, like, Final Fantasy X. They've just kind of kept improving that game and making it better and better and adding the international version content. And because what they do is they release it in Japan and then they release a better version in the United States. They'll add like a little extra content or do something a little bit to improve it, and then they'll go back in Japan and release what they call the International Edition, which is even further like a better version than even we got. It's kind of funny the way they do that, but in latest releases, of course, they've been putting like the full content. But I just kind of wanted to people when they discuss these kinds of things, they always talk about how poorly their 2D games are released, but I think they do a really good job with the 3D ones, and they did a good job with Final Fantasy VIII when they brought that to the Switch too, because that, as good as the cinematics look, obviously the in-game graphics needed some help, and that has always kind of been the joke about Final Fantasy VIII, is that, well, other than the fact that it's a very divisive game, but like, you're the best looking guy here, and it's a mess of pixels.
It's literally pixels, like, on the face.
But I think they did a really good job when they finally brought that over to the Switch. And furthermore, I think they did a great job when they did an actual remake of 7. That reboot, that Final Fantasy 7 remake is top notch. It's a lot of fun. I really recommend that game. I haven't beaten it, so like I don't know how they changed it. I know there's just like a big change at the end, but I love it. I think everything that they did in that game is very compelling. I know you won't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but
yeah, I never had a real interest in either iteration of Final Fantasy VII. The only Final Fantasy game I really touched in any capacity was 5, 5 and Mystic Quest, which I beat, and 6, which I did like, but I had emulated it back in the day, and something messed up at some point, so I couldn't get further in it. Like, I mean, I had that opportunity now.
It was emulation back in the day.
Yeah, like,
It
was
very
pretty
consistent.
good, but there were hiccups.
Yeah, but enough of my example here. What did you want to talk about?
Well, I was even thinking of both games and movies. Although one thing you mentioned regarding, oh, now it's widescreen, now it's HD. We mentioned this before, but I gotta give a shout out, like not full on remake, like kind of, but like both Ninja Warriors, which is now known as Ninja Saviors, Return of the Ninja Warriors, and Wild Guns, which is now known as Wild Guns Reloaded, because both of those games are now HD widescreen capable, and both of them also have 2 extra characters. Wild Guns you start with, and Ninja Saviors you unlock, which is pretty cool. It's like
awesome.
As close to the original material as possible with a couple little bonuses. You can play as 2 different characters, or you don't have to do that. So like that's almost a 1-to-1 remake, which is kind of cool. Probably one of the better examples of a remake that tries to do its own thing is Resident Evil on the GameCube. I know that we have Resident Evil 2, which is a whole other thing. Like Resident Evil 2's remake, the game plays differently. Like it's just a whole different interpretation of Resident Evil 2, so they're 2 different games. Resident Evil 1 kind of is as well. It looks like the original game, but the more you play it, the more you realize it's really not. A lot of stuff has been changed. The music is radically different, or it's either covered or it's just different. The graphics and lighting are insane, especially for a GameCube game. It's now 2 discs to hold all the crazy stuff it has. Puzzles are a little bit different from how you'd remember. There's a whole new area of the house. There's like the backyard with the graveyard and stuff like that. It's a whole different thing. And I do respect that. On one hand, I would love like a Demon's Souls style remake where it's what I remember, except it looks way better. But at the same time, there's also something to be said for something like Resident Evil 1 or 2's remake where they're different enough that you can't just say, oh, well, I know exactly what to do and where to go already because I played this game 10 years ago. There's something to be said for that, too. Resident Evil 1's remake was, I think, what was it, like, what was that, 2001? Was that when that was?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So 5 years later, whereas Resident Evil 2's remake was, like, 20 years later or something like that. A little over 20 years, as a matter of fact. It's only a couple years old at this point. But, yeah, and when we're talking about, like, movie remakes, some of them try to capture the original, but with the new director's flavor, where some of them go in a completely different direction. Like, the obvious remakes to mention are The Thing and The Fly, where there is an alien creature, there is a fly, but otherwise they're, like, entirely different movies. So
I mean, like, the Jeff Goldblum one is all about some body horror going on there, which was never an element in the original black and white movie.
No, the original one was like a guy wearing a fly mask.
It's
just a dude walking around with a big fly mask.
I mean, the best remakes in terms of movies explore a new aspect of a situation rather than like a straight up remake.
Yeah,
I would say.
Well, one of the things I was thinking of when I came up with this question was a very rare case where doing it all again was a good thing in a movie. Because the example I was thinking of was Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Because the prequel trilogy was notoriously bad. Everybody hated them, except for kind of the third one. But everybody was like, oh my god, Star Wars is ruined. I can't believe it. This is the worst thing ever. So then, like, 15, 20 years later, I forgot how long it was. 15-ish.
It's quite a while.
Yeah, years later, Episode 7 finally comes out, and people are like, but it's basically a remake of Episode 4. So it's very redundant. But at the same time, that was a clever decision because it was the director saying, see, I know what you like in Star Wars movies. This is that. And everyone's like, well, yeah, I pretty much knew it was going to happen, but it sure felt like Star Wars. So that was like a rare case where people wanted to just go back to predictable form, or at least things they recognized. The sequels went ahead and did different things, and some of them people liked, some of them people hated, and there was also famously no overarching plan for the sequel trilogy, so that you could tell in I was gonna say Revenge of the Sith. It's the same abbreviation though. Rise of Skywalker. They're both RFS.
Yeah.
But you could definitely tell in Rise of Skywalker, and you could kind of tell in The Last Jedi. But The Force Awakens, again, it's very redundant, so it's ironically the most skippable movie. But it was exactly what people needed when it came out. This is what Star Wars feels like. Like, all right, yep, it does actually. Thank you for that. This is certainly not the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, you know what? I like everything about that first movie except for, like, the end when they they blow up the Star Killer was so anticlimactic. It's just...
I didn't mind when they blew it up. What really bugged me was when they were doing... The
stakes are exactly the same, but, like, a little higher, I guess.
Well, that was kind of it, was when they were doing that computer room simulation... hologram debriefing or whatever, like in episode 4. This is what we have to go up against. We're gonna have to fly up to its trenches and but in The Force Awakens, they leaned into it a little too hard. It's like, this is a holographic representation of the Death Star. This is what we're going up against, and it's like 3 times bigger. It's like, all right, okay, thanks. It's even bigger. Whatever, you still blow it up with a tiny bomb. I don't care.
The fuck, you know?
that was leaning a little too hard into it, but otherwise I didn't mind it. What I did mind was they were really setting up Captain Phasma to be something, and then she just kind of wasn't. Which, to be fair, is what happened to Boba Fett, so I guess I can't complain too much, but at the same time,
yeah,
that
but
was
that's
also
the thing
stupid.
That everybody criticizes about Boba Fett. That's the thing, you know? Like, we like him despite that.
Yeah, Boba Fett was cool because he stood around and looked mysterious, and then the one time he does something, he gets fucked up.
Yeah, and very easily, by the way.
And in the most embarrassing way. A blind guy bumps into him by accident, and that's it for him. He's out.
And then he gets eaten by the ground.
Which comically burps, because the kids might find that funny.
I think just, George Lucas is just,
It's very funny.
Stupid.
I want more teddy bears on the forest moon of Endor.
Yeah, seriously.
I like teddy bears.
Yeah, I remember when the worst thing about Star Wars was the Ewoks.
Yeah. Even when I was a kid, I was like, well, this part's okay. I think I like the other parts better, but it's alright.
I was having a discussion of about with the old fart fandom of Star Wars, and all these people are complaining about the new movies and the Rian Johnson and all that shit, and I was like, I remember when the Ewoks were the worst part about Star Wars, and all the old farts were like, yeah, those were the days.
Those are the days when we bitched about something different.
But yeah, I mean, there's. Here's the thing with remakes on movies, it's really tough because you want to you also want to take risks with it because you want to defy expectations to some degree. With remakes, you want to explore something different. Otherwise, you're just making the same movie. Who the hell wants that?
Well,
right?
and we have that. It was the Vince Vaughn Psycho remake.
Oh, jeez.
Which it was in color, but it is shot for shot. It's like the funny.
It's not even a remake. It's like like the same movie.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It is simultaneously the perfect remake and the remake that absolutely no one wants because it's so perfect. This is what a completely accurate remake is. Are you sure that that's what you wanted?
Yeah, because it's it's almost like a student film project. To remake...
Oh, yeah, sure. I can film this. I got a house that looks like this. I'll do it. It is very much like that.
Yeah, to see what you can do when, you take a look, kind of repurpose a film, chop it up and get it to its, nitty gritties, and each shot you're like, okay, I want to reconstitute this, but I don't know. Nobody in the end, nobody wants that. The only person that
people think they want it
is yourself.
But that's just it. People think they want it. They'll see an inconsistency and be like, "That's not like the original." But the Psycho remake is a perfect encapsulation of the original, and yet no one wants it because there's nothing new or interesting about it except that it's in color.
Exactly.
So that's almost like a very good warning against it. Another thing I was thinking of actually was the PG-13 RoboCop remake.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Well, that's the funny thing, because it was different, but nobody wanted it. The first one was a brilliant satire, and the ultraviolence was actually kind of part of it. Like, he's supposed to be a cop. And
it's supposed to be part of the satire.
Yeah,
and
the message, the overall message was that corporations are soulless, monsters, whereas the new RoboCop was what people in the 80s thought the old RoboCop was, which was cool robot man fighting bad guys. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the first movie is a blatant commentary on American culture at the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was blatant, but we saw it when we were kids, so we didn't get that. So we just saw cool robot man fighting bad guys.
Yeah, but adults should have known better.
Yeah, the adults should have, and now we should. But the new RoboCop movie, I think, is just it's more standard fare. Like, there are bad guys. I'm a robot guy. I'll fight the bad guys.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like when Tim Burton did like a remake of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it's like nobody needed that.
In regard to that, well, here's the thing: there's a lot of the book that the '70s movie did not cover or did not do, as accurately as it could. Tim Burton, the one thing I'm aware of that he did keep from the book was the Oompa Loompa songs, because the lyrics were like, because I don't know if you know or remember this, but the book had the Oompa Loompa songs. Like, sure. There was a long song for each kid. It was not the Oompa Loompa doobity doo. That was the 70s thing. The book had full-on songs for each kid. Not that you knew what they sounded like, because it was in text. It's like the songs in The Hobbit or something. But the Tim Burton movie had those songs, which was pretty cool. But otherwise, it's just, I don't know, like, it's just like weird, and it's like Tim Burton's trademark look, but applied to Willy Wonka. And like Willy Wonka's factory and everything, it was weird, and you weren't sure what was going to happen next.
It's whimsical, though.
Yeah, like, this is the thing. If Tim Burton had made this movie 20 years ago, it might have had more of an impact, but now when you watch it, you're like, oh, well, that's what Tim Burton's movies look like. I'm used to the weird curves and the warps and stuff like that. And even, this is something Red Letter Media pointed out, even the world outside the factory is all weird and slanted because Tim Burton just has that look. And so when you're in the factory, I guess it's more so, but you're kind of already used to seeing it already. Like, if you go back and watch Edward Scissorhands, Johnny Depp as Edward Scissorhands is all weird and fucked up, and he lives in the one weird and fucked up house in town, but everything else looks like it's from Pleasantville. It's like too saccharine, and that's not the Tim Burton look. Everything's all pastel colors and pretty, and then you get to Edward Scissorhands, and you're like, oh. But in Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory, everything looks like that. Everything's all weird, so it doesn't have the same kind of impact.
There's the Gothic German expressionism.
Yeah, especially Charlie's Own House, which is all weirdly slanted and everything. Like, that looks like, what's that movie called? Like the Secret Cabinet of Dr. Caligari?
Dr. Caligari, yeah.
I think it was Caligari, yeah. It's like everything's all weird, and it looks like, am I in a dream or what? But in Tim Burton, no, that's just how the movie looks all the time.
Yeah.
Same goes with Alice in Wonderland, by the way. Like, Tim Burton's version. It's all, like, weird and fucked up. And at the time, I was overjoyed for that, because I thought it was going to be American McGee's Alice the movie. But it wasn't. It just coincidentally kind of had the look. The cat, definitely. Like, that was clearly from the computer game. But otherwise, it was just a different thing. So, alright.
Well, I kind of want to return things back to video games for a little bit. I hate to keep hitting the Square Enix train up, but they're kind of the most notorious company because they're very inconsistent. But they're sometimes really, really good and sometimes really, really bad. But I'm really glad that they have done a couple of them. I heard that the Trials of Mana remake was supposed to be excellent.
Okay.
And I want to take a look at that. And that's after they remade the other two games. They did an Adventures of Mana on the PS Vita. They did a remake of that, and then they did a remake of Secret of Mana that wasn't that great either. They did do a trilogy of the original games, so that was more people's jam because it was the original games. But apparently, the third game they did improvements on. So, and kind of in the same breath, they released remakes of and restorations of Unlimited Saga and what was the other one? Legend of Mana.
Oh, I was also going to mention not really a remake, but a remaster with extra features. But I was going to say Near Replicant.
Yeah. They do. They're so frustrating because they have. There are very few companies that have the kind of legacy that they do. And they were the only kind of. They're the last remnant of.
Last Remnant for PS4?
That was also by them.
Was it really?
Yeah. That was a PS3 game, I think.
I think it was, but I think it might have also made it to PS4. I'm not 100%.
I gotcha. That one's a Tri-Ace game, I think.
Okay, maybe you're right.
Does that sound right? But yeah, it was published by them for sure.
Okay.
But what I was gonna say was they are very frustrating because they are the combination of the two companies that were kind of the founders of video game like story on console games. You know what I mean? Like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest were the pinnacle of NES like storytelling. I can't think of any other like RPG series that's even in the same league as them on the NES.
The original
the only other one that is a contemporary that is right up there with them is Phantasy Star, right? In terms of complexity and storytelling and things like that. So, Mother 1, that's the only other one I can think of, right? There's nothing else that kind of has.
I'm not 100% on this one. I just know that you talk to villagers as you solve problems, but I could be wrong. But Star Tropics?
Yeah, I guess. I never really played those games.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Unfortunately,
the second game was apparently America only.
Yeah. We actually got a few Japanese-made America-only games, like Lone Ranger from Konami was like that. Contra Force by Konami was like that.
Was Metal Gear 2 Japan-made, or was that America made and America only?
You mean Snake's Revenge?
Yeah, Snake's Revenge. Yeah, the fake Metal Gear 2. Yeah, Snake's Revenge.
Yeah, Snake's Revenge is a North America only release, I believe.
It was, but
by a Japanese company.
It was Japanese. Okay, all right.
It was made by internal team at Konami.
Okay,
for sure. Yeah, there were some interesting things back then being happened. They made games specifically for the American market over there, which didn't happen. It doesn't happen at all anymore. I think it's really cool that they have that legacy, but they must have some weird bureaucracy going on because of like the old timers that are still in that company. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they must have such disagreement as to how things should be handled. But like every like the fans are pretty clear on this. We just want a good looking Super Nintendo style pixel art with selectable music.
Yeah.
And all of the extra content that you can throw in there, for extra areas and things like that. That's all anybody ever wants. And for widescreen, right? And for you to fix any holes in the game. That's all that we ever really want, and it's kind of funny that we hardly ever really get it. But it's just one of those things.
Oh, by the way,
any other?
Yes.
I was going to say, any others that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, 3 things. Although 2 of them, I cannot really relate to their original releases because America never got them. But the very first Phoenix Wright game, Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright, the first game we got was a remake because it was originally a Game Boy Advance game, but we got it on the DS, and the first Danganronpa was a PSP game, but we got it on the Vita with that post-game school chores mode, which I do not believe was on the original release. And even Phoenix Wright, I think, had like a 5th case that was not on the original Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, it was a 4th case.
4th case, excuse me.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the Ace Attorney games are pretty famous for that because they were originally GBA games.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and one other thing I want to mention, which we did not get the original of, but then we did, is Corpse Party, the first one, because it was I want to say a Game Maker game. There are a few different programs. It might have been Game Maker, and you could tell it's got like old style art. The character art looks a little different from what you'd expect. From what I've heard, there's straight up like an RPG like boss fight with the main antagonist at the end, which absolutely does not happen in the remake. Strangely, and very unfortunately, if you ask me, the remake, I think, is still stuck on the PSP, or the Vita, if you want to order it from the Vita store, but Corpse Party Blood Covered is the version that we first got in the West, with revamped music, revamped art. I believe, I forgot if the first game had voice acting or not, but the second game sure as hell does, with real pros. Certain characters' personalities were different, and the one of the bigger changes, I mean, every change was a big change, let's be real, but one of, I think, the most significant changes was this was one of the first, if not the first, games to use this, like, I forgot what it's called, like, this 3D audio recording.
Oh yeah, it was almost like a Dolby kind of mixing.
Yeah, like if you were wearing your headphones while playing the PSP, you can hear voices like behind you or in front of you. Like even though
really
it's just headphones. Yeah, like so. I don't tend to wear headphones, but like even I will say that is the way to play. Like if you're gonna play it on the PSP or now the way I didn't do it at the time, but now 3DS. I would either hook up the PSP to the TV with component cables because a couple of the models did that, or you can use the PS TV and download it to that and play it on the TV. But when I say I recommend headphones, that's actually kind of a big deal coming from me. But it really gets you in the mood.
Isn't the version to play right now the 3DS version?
I forgot the 3DS version existed, actually. Yeah, I suppose so. The visuals are going to look a little different. You're not going to get 1080p, and you could only play it handheld on the 3DS, but yes, it has a little bit of extra content in it, so there is that.
Yeah, I hate it when, like, it's locked to a system that doesn't have, like, any kind of carryover to anything else.
Yeah, like, give it a Switch port, please. Like, that would be the definitive way to play it, eventually.
Yeah, agreed.
But, if you ever played Book of Shadows, the follow-up, you can unlock very brief, not really interviews, but more like the voice actors saying stuff. Like, you don't quite know what you're going to get. Like, the person who does Yuka, Satoshi's little sister, she talks to you, like, in character. Like, oh, I'm looking for my brother. Oh, gotta go now. Bye. Like, in the voice of the character. Whereas other actors talk about their experience making the game. Like, oh, it was interesting doing this or that. But the guy who voices Kizami, he's a prolific voice actor. He did young Joseph in JoJo. And he's done a bunch of other stuff. He was Graham Spector in Bacano. But he just is like, you know what the best way to play this game is? Is take your PSP and put it in a clear, sealable plastic bag so you can hold it so it gets wet. fill up a bathtub, put red colored dye into it so it looks like blood, turn on like a couple candles or light a couple candles or something, turn off the lights, get in your like blood bathtub, and play the PSP game like in your clear plastic bag so it doesn't get wet. And like the funny part of that is the end of the audio thing. He goes, "Who would do such a thing, you may ask? I would. I would do such a thing." And then just like it's amazing.
That's
that
amazing.
Guy's so good.
Oh man. Well, I think we went over some good ones here, but I think we should move on to fan stuff at this point.
Sure. We have a few comments here. Living Corpse says Resident Evil Village had 2 DRM, Capcom and De Novo. So, here we go again, right? We were talking about Dead Space before, and now we got this bullshit. As many others have said, funny how this only affects paying customers. That's the whole thing. Like, if you pirate, you get the better version of the game because it's not full of this shit. This doesn't stop piracy. It encourages it and just makes it less future-proof when someone needs to port the game to a future generation of game systems or gaming computer. Yeah, like, the only thing you would lose by pirating the game is, like, probably, like, whatever full online support you might have. I don't know if the servers would still make sense if you had a pirated version of an online game. I don't know how that works. But, yeah, fuck De Novo. And then DR says, this is just a quick one, Hexen. What a great game that was.
Yeah, it's so revolutionary. It's like one of those ones that people really need to go back to.
Yeah, when I played it back in the day, I respected it, but I got stuck very quickly because I didn't know where, like, one more gear was to open the next level or whatever. But it's, like, a brilliant idea.
It's hard.
It's very hard to figure out, but it's a very clever game.
It's really hard.
It's like a first-person Metroidvania almost. And then Dracologist says, yes, there exists a Life Force / Salamander anime, and I saw it. It's fucking nuts. Also, there is ZOE, meaning Zone of the Enders, Idolo, and Idolores.
Yeah, that one did come out.
Yeah, I forgot about those, actually. I've actually seen at least one of them on DVD.
You know which one?
Also Heavy Year, which I did not know about.
There was another one that I forgot to mention. Gungrave turned into an anime.
Oh, you're right. That was a video game first.
Yeah. And it was good, too. It was a good anime.
By the way, I forgot. Did I mention Dead Space last time?
Yeah, we did. We talked about that.
because there was a couple of those.
Even Pitch Black had an anime.
Really?
Anime kind of thing. Yeah,
wow.
Going on there.
Okay. And then our question comes from Kurogachi. This is very specific, but I like it. What is your favorite cheesy moment of Resident Evil 4? There's a lot of cheesy moments, so I kind of wanted to know a favorite. Be safe, and I'm loving the podcast. Thank you very much, Kurogachi.
Is that a newcomer here?
No, I've seen Kurogachi around sometimes, but, like, different people pose at different times.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil, man, there's a lot. This is not my favorite, but I do like, very early in the game, this was not even how it was originally scripted. You know how when the village, like, really wakes up and you start getting mobbed by villagers and you're like, oh, geez, and you have to fight them for, I think it's a particular period of time. And then
while you're in the house, while you're in that house.
No, but before that, when you're just running around. When and then all of a sudden the church bell rings, because this is before you meet Luis. Then the church bell rings and everyone just leaves. In the Japanese version of the game, it's very standard. Leon's like, "Where's everybody going?" But they made him more like flippant in the Western version, so he says, "Where's everybody going?" Bingo, and it's just amusing to me because they're going to the church. It's like the whole crowd. I thought that was kind of funny. Probably my favorite individual cheesy moment though, because it's so dumb, is when he's trying to make like jokes at Salazar, the Napoleon looking guy, where he's like, "I've sent my right hand after you," and Leon's like, "Your right hand comes off." And it's like, yeah, real funny. It's just. That also amused me. The same thing goes with I don't know if this was supposed to be a joke or not. The actual boss of the game, Sadler, like
you're small time.
Yeah, you may think you're important, but you are just small time. You're small time, Sadler. Like, really? Good one.
So stupid. Probably my favorite part of that game is kind of related to the fact that I was like working at GameStop at the time, and like we saw the demo over and over again play, to attract people.
Yeah.
And boy, we had so much fun, like, just laughing our asses off and also saying it over and over again "Don't worry, Ashley, I'm coming for you."
Yeah.
Like,
That is pretty good.
just like over and over and over again.
You know what I also like, by the way, is when you do the shooting gallery thing, you can unlock little figures of different characters, and they each have something they say. But Luis is just like out of nowhere. Like, it has nothing at all to do with what's in the game.
His character.
But it was something like, "Did you send out those invitations? I said no more than 50 people." It's like, what?
I love that.
What are you talking about? That's
it was
good.
probably like a thing that he said, like, offhandedly just to be funny, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like just the actor said it or whatever. Because, like, there
exactly.
is nothing there that ties to that in the game at all, so it's just really silly.
I sent my buddy Retro Gamer this the other day, but like, somebody made this on Twitter. It's really funny, but it's like this like picture of Ashley like in looking like a cute anime schoolgirl and going and talking to Leon, and Leon's saying to her, "Go in that dumpster," and she goes, "Yes, Leon."
That really is the whole game. Everybody complains about what a pain in the ass it is to escort Ashley. And
she's not that bad.
She
really
not.
isn't that bad. Yeah,
enter area with enemies, tell her to hide in thing, just solo the area without any restrictions whatsoever.
She hardly ever died when I played that game.
Yeah, it's very easy. The only part of the game where you can't do that is the part where it shows you, like, it's a scripted sequence that shows that she can be taken away. Like, the very first time where you have to, like, have her turn that handle to whatever the hell it was, move a platform or whatever, but that's where an enemy grabs her, like, scripted. So you had to shoot the enemy to drop her, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a mechanic? But it doesn't have to be. That's the only time. It really has to be.
Yeah.
So, like, whatever.
I just love that game so much. I think it is ripe for a remake, because
sure.
I think they really could do a lot with expanding some of the areas, and also the big thing is the controls. They really need to add strafing to the game.
Well, what they need to add is proper camera control, because at the time, you can whip the camera behind you, like in Ocarina of Time, like Z targeting, but like you couldn't freely move the camera, even though you had a C stick. So that would just radically change the game.
Yeah, I'm having trouble thinking to myself, would I rather want that, or do I want a remake of Code Veronica first? And
Code Veronica is not. It's not my favorite.
What's kind of funny is it was the first game that I really played through in this series, so I kind of have nostalgia for it based off of that.
Oh, it actually took me a while to get to it, because I played 1 and 0. 2 and 3 were available for the GameCube, but I held off on buying them for a while because they really maintained their price of $40. Like, they never went down, and eventually I sucked it up. But I played Resident Evil 4 well before Code Veronica, and so it was really funny because I didn't know what had happened to Wesker between 1 and then, because you know how he's like Neo from the Matrix in Code Veronica? He's like jumping around and everything. So he's an unlockable character in mercenary mode for 4. And I was like, oh, Wesker from Resident Evil 1. I can play as him. And then, you know how when you stun an enemy, depending on whether they're standing up or they're on their knees, you have different animations? Like Leon will roundhouse kick them if it's just their head, but if he brings them to their knees, he'll like suplex them. And you know how different characters have different animations for that? Hunk just like snaps a motherfucker's neck, which is like shocking.
I love that.
Including the chainsaw women. He'll just fucking kill him. But Wesker, I wanted to see what he would do, and he just does like a palm thrust, and the enemy goes flying until he hits a wall, and I was shocked, like, because I did not know about Code Veronica, so I was like, what is this? It was like the most surprising thing. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think that man, this game was just so fun. I think people take for granted, like, with the way games are now, because like that game like revolutionized how games were played.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2's remake wouldn't be a thing if it weren't for Resident Evil 4.
I'm actually in the opinion that probably the Resident Evil 2 remake is probably the best game in the series.
I look forward to playing it, because so far I'm going to say I had the most fun with 4, but I think I like OG 2 the best, but I still have to play remake of 2.
The remake, like, it is everything you'd want out of a remake and more.
Okay.
It's just that good.
It fleshes out Irons from what I heard, because you had like exactly one cutscene with them, and then what the hell was that thing called? What was that one boss called that nobody cares about? That like impregnated him with that thing. Well, I guess it did that to the reporter, but like Irons was also killed by, what was it, like G something, G mutant or whatever.
Oh, I don't.
The thing that's like making babies as you fight it, and you're like, what? It's like in Resident Evil 4, that one random boss that comes completely out of nowhere. It's called like B3 or something. You're like, huh, okay.
Well, I really love that remake. I think that's like one of the best remakes ever made. It's that good.
Apparently, they made Irons legitimately terrifying, because in the original game, his voice actor was like, I think, unintentionally comical, because it sounded like he was hamming things up. Like, you need to shoot zombie directly in the brain, or something else. Like where like the mayor's daughter is dead on his desk, but alas, he had to kill her because she became a zombie, even though there's an inconsistency in his story. But it's just the one line I still remember to this day, because it just struck me as funny, was because of the delivery. And to think, taxidermy used to be my hobby, but no longer. Like, just something about that, it just cracked, like, the way he read it. It's the same thing as, like, that guy's a maniac, why did he bite me? Like, good line, but the delivery is just silly.
Why did he bite me? Like, people don't talk like that.
Well, that's a grizzled truck driver. This is how Americans talk.
I guess.
It makes me think of Troll 2, where the actors were like, nobody talks like that, and the director's like, I know how Americans talk. It's like, okay, buddy.
Whatever you say, man.
You can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
Oh man, just watching that documentary, you're like,
that was legitimately enlightening.
You're just cringing the whole time.
Yeah.
And then the dentist is like carrying the grown up kid. It's so funny.
Yeah, the dentist being the jerk father in the movie, when in reality he's like the nicest guy on planet Earth.
Yeah, everybody loves him.
I remember there was a clip of his ex-wife who was like, "Oh yeah, he's a super great guy." Like, wow.
It's even his ex-wife is like all about him.
Yeah, like, damn. This guy's the best.
Nice. All right, well, I think that's all I have here for that one. How about you, Lotus?
Probably the one other thing I'll add is when you unlock the hand cannon, when you're going to buy it from the merchant, he goes, "Stranger, what are you doing? Hunting elephants?" It's great, because that gun is severely overpowered. Like, those enemies with the wooden shields, it'll just punch right through them. It's great.
All right, well, I think that will be the show for this week, then. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed comments and questions. We had some good ones this week. Did we get any more questions, Lotus?
Oh, good question. No, this is the last one.
Well, it was a good question. And
yeah, thank you very much.
That was a good question, but we need more questions.
Just let that sit for a little while.
Give me a question, I'll read you a poem.
Give me a question. I love questions.
Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. We love doing this, so thank you again. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday for our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. And finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much anything. Just give me a heads up as to who you are.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Well, that's just grand. We will catch everybody on Tuesday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.